Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I got a review for you guys of the 0562 from ZT, a Rick Hinderer design. This is the CF version. There is a full tie version and now a micarta version in Magna Cut steel. This guy features a nice titanium frame lock with an absolutely incredible slicey blade of 20 CV steel, fully USA made. We love Rick Hinderer. We love ZT. But I figured I've been gone for so long, haven't posted a review in a while. Why not come back with a not only popular model, but what's arguably the best EDC folder that ZT has ever released. Just in terms of size, in terms of performance, it's just an incredible, incredible knife. But I don't want to give too much away before I start going into what I like and don't like. So we might as well as just give this guy some size comparisons. I got a couple ZTs that I'm going to put this guy next to. I'm going to speed through this because I got like 5 ZTs. These are 2 discontinued ZTs, which I figure will be fun to start us off. We have the, I believe this is the 0640 model, and this is the 0909. This guy is in S35. This guy is in 20 CV. Emerson design, Les George design. A lot of manpower on this. We got Hinderer, we got Emerson, and we got Les George. Such cool knives. But yeah, both of these knives make the 0562 look pretty tiny. And that's kind of why I'm showing all my ZTs with this guy, because I wanted to show that this guy, in the terms of ZT, is actually pretty well sized. I'd say the only knife that beats it in my eyes, especially for EDC and other tasks, I do enjoy the 0393 just a bit more than the 0562, but this is also a Hinderer design. These are both incredible EDC knives, but even this guy is slightly taller. Sorry, it's like focusing on my hand. Is slightly taller than the 0562. The 0393 is definitely a bit on the taller side. And then 2 knives that I just think will be funny to show next to this because of how comically large they are. We got the 0562, one of the most disappointing discontinues of ZT. I don't know why they would discontinue something like that. And the ZT 0452 CF, the older brother to this guy down here, and also a Dimitris Sinkovich design. You guys can see there's a couple similarities. Both of these are half carbon fiber, half titanium. Same with all these here. I do like that it's the 0462 and the 0562, and this is the 0452. So it gets a little confusing with all these knives on screen, but yeah, really quite a good carry, and obviously the size is much more competitive than most other ZTs. But regardless, let's get on to the real size comparisons between things like the PM2 that we absolutely love on this channel. This guy here is pretty much right dead on with the PM2, maybe being slightly taller or slightly smaller rather. I don't know why I took the ZT off camera and not the PM2. I guess I thought I was reviewing the PM2. What can I say? Here is the 80/20.5. This guy rocking some OG goat scales. If you don't got any OG goat scales, go get some. Go get some. This is the S35 VN version. It's also got a titanium pocket clip, titanium backspacer. I'm just flexing at this point. Here is the 940 Osborne, quite a bit smaller than this guy. And as you guys can tell, now we're starting to see this is a big knife. Compared to other ZTs, it's not. But compared to other knives, it really is. And to make it even funnier, here is the Bel Air with the clip point blade, Magna Cut blade, and the micarta handles. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I love it to death. Regardless, let's get on to what I like and don't like about this guy, and if I can recommend it for you guys. And of course, we're going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. We'll see what we got going on. Let's get started. First and foremost, the slicer blade shape, a design from Rick Hinderer, arguably his best blade shape. I mean, we're talking about a blade shape that just cuts through cardboard, cuts through the fabric of reality, and also somehow manages to be edgier than a 16-year-old teenager. It is quite incredible how slicey they managed to make this knife, especially in regard to some of their other models, including the 0393, which is a thick ground knife. This is extremely thin ground, comes to a pretty slicey edge. It's not the sliciest thing in the world. I mean, it's still a ZT, but compared to what ZT usually does and Rick Hinderer usually does, it's quite nice. The nice dual tone finish on the blade, including the stone wash on the area with the logo, and obviously back here with all the writing, and then the satin finish on the actual, like, I guess grind lines themselves is also pretty nifty. The pocket clip, the flipper tab also has that stone wash finish. It is quite luxurious. And I will say, going to the back of the knife, seeing that it is in 20 CV just makes me so happy. ZT does incredible 20 CV and S35VN. I've never tried their LMAX, never tried their MagnaCut. I guarantee both are probably awesome as well, but the CPM 20 CV is probably my favorite steel that they use. They just do such a good heat treatment on it, and I feel like on a knife like this, 20 CV was just perfect. Loved it to death. I remember 20 CV being pretty hard to sharpen, but I actually had to touch this guy's edge up because I got a little chip in the blade. And it actually wasn't too bad. I forget that 20 CV is not like the worst thing in the world. I will say this knife feels extremely secure because of these thumb studs that aren't technically thumb studs because it's very hard to use them as thumb studs. I sometimes can get lucky and get them out. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, nice. But as you guys can tell, that was quite a labor. That was quite a laboring task. Yeah, there we go. Now I got it warmed up. But yeah, that's a pretty laboring task to get it out with those thumb studs. But looking at them as maybe more than thumb studs and more as a stop pin, they do incredible. And they're so thick and robust. I'm like, this knife's never going to close on me. But there's also a stop pin back here. It looks like the blade never really interferes with it back here. So these are the only thumb studs that are really going to stop this knife from folding backward. But I mean, they're very secure, very thick, and obviously riding on this stainless steel liner and this titanium frame, there's literally zero wear there. I've had this knife for almost 3 years, and there's just no wear there even over all this time. Now I just want to keep thumb studding it. I'm going to try to stop doing that because I'm going to tear up my thumb. But regardless, moving down, we have a very, very nice flipper tab. Now, some people do think of Hinderer flipper tabs as quite aggressive and quite painful after a while, including some people have allowed to hold and actuate this knife. They have found that the flipper tab does get a little irritating after a while. I don't really recognize it, and in fact, I love this flipper tab. So I'm going to stand up for it because I'm tired of so many people hating on it. I've literally watched like 8 reviews where people just hate on the flipper tab. Well, quite frankly, I like it. I can flip it out every single time, not only reliably, but fast, and this knife kind of has a bit of a fear factor to it in terms of like intimidation because it is so easy to actuate with this flipper tab. I pull this knife out of my pocket, and if my finger's even a little bit on it, it's gonna open. There's no texture on it either, no jimping, no nothing on either side. So all that's coming from is just that little hooked end. And so I actually do quite enjoy the pocket clip. Oh my goodness, I keep calling it the pocket clip. The flipper tab on the ZT-0562. Moving down to the handle itself, I personally would recommend, if you have to choose between this guy, the micarta version, and the full tie version, go with either this version or the MagnaCut version. If you're a big time hard user of your knives, MagnaCut's going to be a good choice because of how tough it is. The 20 CV is going to have the better edge retention for sure, and they're both going to have comparable stainlessness. But this version comes with this really nice patterned carbon fiber. I love their carbon fiber, their woven carbon fiber design so much, more than even their micarta. So I would say this is the best version just for the handles alone. Flipping it over, you get a really nice stone wash on the titanium. So comboing this handle with this part of the handle, you're just like, wow, this goes together so nicely. I love it. The big hardware, I believe all these body screws are T8s, including the pivot there, also T8. That's enjoyable. That is nice. That's something I definitely enjoy, and I have had to take this knife apart before just for some light work maintenance, but it definitely is kind of nice to take apart. It's not too difficult. You don't have to worry about your bits screwing because they're not T6. I do love the little pivot design. I like the little dimples they decided to put in. I think it just adds a little aesthetic flair. Kind of enjoy that. I do like that this guy has an over travel stop, a pocket clip that stops it from over traveling, a lock bar insert that also stops it from over traveling. This knife is never going to over travel. That is a good news. That is great news. So my biggest fear about knives like the Spyderco Spidey Chef, you know, this knife always scares me that it's going to go all the way over because there is no lock bar insert. Well, this guy's got 3. So you're good, all right? And I will admit, or not lock bar insert, sorry, the over travel stops. But I will also compliment the lock bar insert. That's obviously going to help this guy wear in a little bit slower over time. And as you guys can tell, I'm at like probably like 20% lockup. So honestly, the lock bar insert's kind of nice. Not required, but definitely really nice. I guess a couple other points. Love the deep carry pocket clip. It slides in and out of my pocket pretty easy. I will admit when I'm wearing jeans, it doesn't want to go all the way up, but for the most part, it will. This guy's not too tough in its retention at all, so I do enjoy that. The detent is incredible. Can't help but comment on that. The little jimping accents here and down here are not only non-cumbersome, but they're also quite nice on the hand. There's nothing about them that irritates me. I like them both. Also like the little standoffs here. And I think the last thing I can really compliment is that this is a frame lock, and frame locks are some of my favorite locks. Tough locks, especially because keep in mind, if you're really bogging down on this guy, the chances of it failing on you are very minimal. And obviously a full tie frame lock, a lot of people are going to complain about because a lot of people think they're oversaturated. But, you know, I personally believe you can't have too many titanium frame locks in the world. That's just my opinion, though. You know what I mean? But anyways, I want to get into what I don't like about this knife, and like most knives that I review, because as most of you guys know, I don't really get rid of most of my collection. Most of my collection is permanent, and it's permanent for a reason. It's because I know I'm going to love the knife. And this guy is no different. Most knives that I review, I have to carry for at minimum a month or two. So yeah, I love this guy, but I do have some bad to say, for sure. There's a lot of hardware. I mean, a lot of hardware, intimidatingly so. And in fact, kind of ugly so, because you have all, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 screws on this side. And then on this side, you got a solid, well, 5. That's pretty rough. Definitely not a happy thing about that. This guy is thick, big, and robust, which is something I do like, but what I don't like is the weight that comes along with it. This thing is heavier than a mug. I believe it is over 5 ounces, which for someone like me, doesn't really bother me that much. Knives really only start to bother me when they get around like 6.5 to 7 ounces. That's when knives really start to weigh down my pants. But this guy, you definitely know you're carrying it, you know? Maybe after a few hours you'll forget, but for me it's like, I know I'm carrying a ZT when I'm carrying a ZT, especially if we're talking about the 0909. This thing is freaking like 7 point something ounces. That's like, whoo. But yeah, this guy's not too bad. The thumb studs are a little annoying. I really wanted these to be thumb studs. Okay, did you guys see that? That was light work right there. Sorry. Anyways, not really proving my point. The thumb studs, they will work if you get a form down, like if you get used to using them like that, but it's still uncomfortable even when you get used to it. You guys, that was 3 for 3. I'm surprising myself now. Regardless, these thumb studs are not incredible. I think they should definitely work on that. The 20CV is a bit chippy. That's always something I like to make sure people know. It's not a super tough steel, and it does still take quite a while to fix up things like chips in the blade, and it does take a while to sharpen if that is something you find yourself needing to do with 20CV. It's not as hard as I remember it being, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? I will say just something that I always complain about. It's a painted clip. This could have done without a painted clip and I would have been a happy guy. But I have started to notice that pretty much every single ZT has a painted clip outside of the 0462. That's the only pocket clip I've seen from them that isn't painted. I just wish they weren't black because they show wear over time, which really sucks. You guys can already tell I got a couple scratches and stuff on it. This was a brand new knife when I got it 2 years ago. And luckily I've managed to keep my pocket clip pretty safe, but it's still getting scratched up. That sucks. And I'd also like to say this knife is definitely overkill. It is humongous, has so many over travel stops, which is insane. This really hard lock bar insert, these really big screws and so many of them. Like, this knife is overbuilt, right? And for some people that's going to be a con. It's not really a con for me, but it's something that I do want to say is something that for an EDC knife I don't really like, so I'm going to mention it, even though again this is probably ZT's best EDC folder. And then finally, kind of the last wrap up of something I don't really like about this guy. I find that the handle is a bit on the blocky side. Even though there is no hot spots or anything like that, everything's nice and rounded, there's no sharp edges, I still find that this guy, because of how thick it is, and it is thick, very thick, Just seeing how thick this guy is, though, you're going to have that blocky feeling in your hand, especially with a handle that's this kind of chungo, if you will. You know, that's a scientific word, I suppose. But you got a very chungus knife here, and that's, I don't know why I'm using that as an adjective. You have a very thick handle here, and it definitely is not the most comfortable thing in the world. Again, the blocky feeling is definitely there. But is it uncomfortable? Absolutely not. This is an ergonomic knife. Let me just say, it is an ergonomic knife, just with a blockier handle. Now, that's going to do it for me. I figure that's all I really have to say negative about this guy, but what I will say about this guy is it is an incredible folding knife. It is a knife that if you don't have in your collection, you are not collecting. ZT is an incredible company. People want to complain because ZT has changed up how they design things in certain models, but they are still releasing knives that are big, built, and just ready to go. And I think that this is a prime example that ZT is still ZT. I mean, we cannot forget that ZT still makes these kind of knives, these kind of perfect for the hard user and yet still EDC capable kind of knives. So I love it. I love ZT. This is an easy 9.5, possibly even a 9.75 out of 10 knife. I mean, this thing has very little wrong with it. The only thing that's really a deal breaker for me is the thumb studs. I just want them to work. I wanted them to be placed optimally. The good news is I have an 0550 coming soon, ZT's first collaboration with Rick Hinderer, and hopefully when that comes in, I'll be able to see what a good Hinderer thumb stud action feels like. But regardless, this knife is definitely solid, definitely worth the pickup. Do pick it up. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there. God bless. And of course, thank you.